Hello and welcome to Smash Writing. I'm your host, Justin. Woo! That's as far as I can go. God, you need a bigger space, Paulie.
Beggars can't be choosy.
Say hello to the people, Paulie.
Hi, people. I am your co-host, Paul. And
He
look,
says co-host like it's a thing.
it very much is because, we finally got Justin back in action.
It took a while.
He goes into his little hut there, and I can never find him. But we're recording now, so
Isn't it just the best of years this year?
oh god,
This list was fantastic to try to come up with.
this was actually like one of those ideas that we literally had to brainstorm and not just. We review tons of films every year. We always say this.
Especially with me though, I tend to bounce around every year, like with B-Movie Sunday, just like cherry picking from years.
Yeah, so in so many reviews, everything like that. But this year was a little tough because, well, we all know what's going on. It's wasting our time. But
With how many movies ended up getting pushed to next year.
yeah, I mean, this for that brace like summer, it legitly looked like we had nothing to say, nothing to talk about. Really, it was just making up, rankings are not making up idea. We love rankings, but there was nothing really going on for us to look into, so it kind of shut the year down. But there were some movies.
There was quite a few good movies that I'd have even ranked this high if the year stayed.
And honestly, like, with the theaters being shut down, it really opened our eyes to do more streaming movies because there are some good movies on the streaming services. We are combined. We have a bunch of them under our names. Like
It's just everyone anymore though. Like streaming's almost the way to go.
Yeah,
But anyway, these are our top 5 movies from 2020. I got 5, he got 5, and we'll shoot down each other's top movies until the end.
oh yeah. Let's go with Justin first. What was your 5th best film of the year?
My 5th best film of the year comes from Peacock. Who thought that would have been a saying, even at the start of the year, like Peacock's gonna have one of the top 5 movies.
Crazy, yeah.
I'm willing to bet some people will disagree, and I think that's just one of the important things. Is like you're going to disagree. Let us know in the comments how much you disagree. We look forward to reading them. But my number 5 is Psych 2: Lassie Comes Home.
Now, Psych is the first movie of Psych came out.
It was a couple of years ago that it came out.
And the show has been off the air for a couple of years.
Yeah, quite a few more even. I think it ended in like around 2010-ish, maybe 2011.
Really? Wow.
I think I can look it up, but
it's
it's been gone for a while. But the Psych 2, like anytime a Psych movie comes up, I'm instantly excited because I love that show.
What made you like this?
Oh, the fact that all the cast is coming back. Like in the first Psych movie, Lasseter couldn't be there because the actor in real life had shrunk. But they actually tailored this movie not only around him being confined to the bed for the most part because he's unlimited on what he can do, but it was actually heart-touching how they went about it and really let him open up from the heart about it and let him infuse that side into his character. And in the final image where you finally get to see him get out of the wheelchair and walk to the wife, and that was like soul-crushing. It's like, yes, this was the best way to do this movie, was centered around Lassie.
Awesome. And they said Peacock is a
newcomer to the...
Yeah, one of the newcomers to the streaming services. It's free with ads.
And the ads aren't even that much of a problem.
Well, no, I like how we both had this, for right's sake, we both have the same cable company. The deal that we get with Peacock was supposed to be ad-free because we get the premium because we're a part of the subscription to the cable company. But yet we have ads. Just saying that.
I go through my Roku. And the thing with that, though, is like with Psych 2, it was like 120-second ads at the beginning of the movie, and that was it. It was done. And that's perfect. I'll take 2 minutes of ads at the beginning to not be bothered the rest of the time.
I mean, the ads weren't really bad. It was just a side joke. Haha.
Alright. Next, you're up. What's your 5th?
My 5th one this year was and it seems like it came out almost last year, as it's been a long year. Is Bad
You're going
Boys?
back to January, geez.
Yeah, I know. Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys for Life. This film I really did have doubts with, because the Bad Boy franchise as a whole is popular, but only parts of it is. The overall numbers will show you that this movie is way too expensive and stuff like that. There are certain things I didn't like, though, the incorporation of Will Smith's son. But other than that, it had a good action sense to it. It had a good comedy, which you put Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together, again, they're gold. So the laughs was there. It also had a very good storyline because Will Smith's character is now going from that hot shot detective, the kick-ass or whatever, to he's not the same guy. And it told that story, how he has to bounce back and evolve the character because he's not the same character anymore. I thought it was a good film. Crazy to think that it was way back in January that this film came out, and it ended up being pretty good in the theaters, making a good amount of money, and so, but it was still one of the fun movies to watch this year.
Yeah. I didn't watch it. I thought it was going to be bad because...
I thought you came with us to the room.
No, I didn't go.
Really?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I was running myself on January. I went and saw The Ring and Underwater, which was...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Every once in a while, we go as a group, but then when so many movies come out, there's two of us, so we can see other films.
But Underwater almost made the list. It was like a hair away from making the list. But my number 4 is Bill and Ted Face the Music. Yes!
I would accept Underwater.
Bill and Ted! This was so much better than it had any right to be.
No.
Any right to be this good, and it was.
Of all the films that could have got postponed.
The chemistry between Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves is still there and present, and seeing the three go back and forth with death was just the right side of nostalgic goodness for what has been this year. I think that's why Bill and Ted has made it so far on my list. It's because this year's been so bad that we've had movies like this to lighten the mood. And not even that, but you added Bridget Lundy Payne and Samara Weaving in there as their daughters, and those two were entertaining, and they played the role of their siblings. Like, they take so much after them, yet they're just a little smarter and able to put together a little bit more interesting things. And the dynamic was truly compelling all the way throughout this movie, and definitely earned a place in the top 5. And this is one of those movies where I think even if this year hadn't played out the way it has been, this movie still would be on my top 5.
My story with this film is...
It's disappointing.
The hatred for it is... I watched the first one a long time ago. I thought it was stupid. Funny story is, I ordered a movie from Target. They sent me the second one.
Bogus Adventure.
Yeah. I called them up so bad, complained, and I wanted my film. They're like, well, you can keep that one, we'll send you yours, and sorry for the mistake. I'm like, no, I don't even want it with the rest of my films.
This is coming from someone who keeps buying the DCEU movies.
It's part of the collection.
Who cares? Like, Bogus Adventure is so much better than what Batman vs. Superman is.
It's still part of the collection. Anyway.
At least that's purposely funny.
Anyway, my next film is Sonic the Hedgehog. This is probably one of the better video game film
adaptations. Yeah.
Ever. We both went, and there was so much praise to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it did become the highest grossing video game film, right? Or close to.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But
it literally did.
It doesn't have
right.
It doesn't have much competition. Video game movies never do well, even when they are good.
But even in its run with the rest of competitors, it did very good.
Ben Schwartz's Sonic was perfect. He was able to bring in all of the aspects that you'd think Sonic would have.
Yeah.
With that comedic lightheartedness, but she knows when to be serious and everything, especially with bouncing off of Jim Carrey's Eggman, because that was
a great
Jim
performance.
Carrey's performance as Eggman has really been just a refreshing take from him.
It was a nice. They showed his ride. Like they started where he's like he's a normal tech smart guy.
Well, he's not normal. Like he was the smartest. He was the smartest man in the room. Not only knew it, but reveled in showing it.
Right, and then it's like when Sonic defeats him. That's when he becomes the robotic character that we
call him his name. His name is Eggman.
Eggman that we all.
Oh no!
Oh
want
no!
to see, and
so it was like kind of like a prequel.
It even had the perfect cliffhanger ending of Tails arriving.
Yeah, that was a post-credit scene.
Yeah, I think it was a mid-credit scene.
Like we didn't know what the post-credit scene, but these days we know unless we kind of cheat, we just automatically stay for the credits.
Yeah.
Because you know there's going to be something at the end, and that was. I think the whole audience that night was like.
Yeah, they popped hard when the show.
It was
like,
crazy.
They were ready. Like they could have ran right into Sonic 2 then and there. No one would have left.
No. And another part is that, and you talked about it, was the use of the coins.
Oh, the rings, where they were able to teleport through them.
I was wondering for months when they announced shows, like, how much of the game are they going to bring to the film? The rings were one of them, because in the rings, it's just points.
Well, that's not true. Like, I don't remember if it was the first or Sonic one. In order to leave the world, you run through a ring, and that teleports you somewhere else.
But that was only for a bonus. Well, yeah, because you had... Yeah, I guess they kind of even stayed true to that, because you had to get so many rings to get to that bonus. But in the movies, they kind of incorporated every ring can make some...
Yeah,
you go
this
somewhere.
was built a little bit more.
Yeah, so they had to work around.
It's not like you were going to hit him, and he's going to... Well, he kind of did. Like, he got hit, and
yeah,
the
they
rings scattered.
paid homage to that, too, and he had to recollect them. The film did everything right, and
they really...
I loved it. As soon as it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it.
Again, like, people need to, like, look at this as, like, a learning tool. Like, stay true to the source.
And it will do just fine. But that's...
I was about to say something, but I was like, no, I won't start that fighting now. That'll be for a later day.
The thing is that this was my number 4. That's your number 3.
Yeah, my number 3.
So every once in a while, we'll can agree on a film making it, and that we both have different taste, really. So when you see the same film, it should actually give you that it's a good movie for to watch and everything like that. So that is ours, 4s, and 3. So we can
go right to your number 3.
Yeah. So one of the better horror films, and probably one of the better remakes.
I have not watched this.
Really? I thought, man, see.
No.
Once again, this is way back in the beginning of the year, so I thought you went with us.
No, I didn't. I was going to, but no. Just go ahead and say it.
Well, it was...
Let's say the movie. You haven't said the title yet.
Yeah.
On the ball, Paul.
I know, right? I'm rusty here. My number 3 is actually The Invisible Man, the remake or reboot, whatever you want to consider it, that came out February? March. Literally right before everything.
Yeah, because that was one of the first movies that left the theaters within 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it made it, but in that 2 weeks, it made a lot of money to make it a success.
I mean, it got to praise. It definitely got praise.
It had the jump scares, which is, you do want a good jump. But what makes a good scary movie is there's a story to it. But then also they changed it up on the invisibility idea. Most of the old films that predates this film, they use a serum to make the person physically invisible and everything like that. In this film, they use technology. It was a suit he put on, and it reflected light to make him appear as if he wasn't there. It was a clever idea.
That's where they lose me. That's why I don't want to watch this movie. Because it's not the Invisible Man, it's just some dude in...
But he's still invisible.
Who cares? So's the Predator. Don't call the Predator the Invisible Man.
Well, anyway, bearing that fact...
The fact is, like, that's not the Invisible Man. That's, like, anyone could take the serum and everything, but... Like,
yeah, so there, it cancels it out.
Hollow Man was the kind of like the Invisible Man, but he wanted to be invisible, and then being invisible over time drove him insane. And
Yeah.
but
And
this is just a
and this-
suit you can take off, like you're defeating the purpose.
But in the Invisible Man, this one was basically a woman abuser, and she's trying to get away from him, and he's literally finding faked his death, the normal stuff. But
I'm sure it's a great psychological thriller.
Yeah, that's
I'm
basically.
sure it is. Like, I'm not sitting here trying to, like, I hate this movie. I haven't even seen this movie, so I don't actually have an opinion.
That I mean,
Right.
I would describe it as that was it's a in the horror field, but it's more a psychological thriller.
Well, psychological horror.
Yeah, basically.
It-
Great movie. I really couldn't find nothing to really complain on my. Yeah, he doesn't like the suit idea, but I thought changing it up wasn't such a bad thing. So that's why it's in my top there.
I knew this was once upon a time supposed to be the monster universe until they mucked it up.
The Mummy,
Oh, God.
Tom Cruise.
My number 2 is a movie that'll probably get the most most hate in the comments, maybe. Then I'm not letting them go. They're not changing the title. No, you don't get to, because this title is so stupid that it shouldn't even been an idea in the first place. Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of One Dr. Harleen Quinzel. I don't think the doctor was in there, actually. I think it was just the Emancipation of One Harleen Quinzel. Oh, it was so much fun. I had a blast with this movie. You have Margot Robbie, who's really making Harley Quinn her own character.
I legitimately thought you were disappointed in it.
No, I was not.
Which part were you? Was there some? There was something you were disappointed because I remember you were talking about.
The only part that I was disappointed in was I don't even remember her name. The kid. That was actually a name of Batgirl 3. He was like a silent killer. But now if you want to use that character, you can't because you've already given the character to someone who doesn't fit the bill. But everything else, I'm going to remember it like 10 minutes after we stop recording.
Yeah, I know, right?
But the movie
Director's
was so much
cut's
fun.
coming next.
Like, you had, like, the list of grievances, because after, like, everyone became aware that Harley's no longer with the Joker, you had this onslaught of people who were coming out to, like, cash in their vendettas.
Which made sense.
And then you had a hell of a performance from Ewan McGregor playing the Black Mask. You had Victor Zsasz. You had Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who did really good as the Huntress. I could watch a movie with her being the Huntress any day, just because it was so much fun watching her. And this movie was just such a fun project, and it's everything that I keep saying, where you don't need the Joker with Harley. And this proves it. This was so much better than the Suicide Squad movie that came out with Margot and Jared Leto and all them. And they heard the criticisms, and they made a better film.
Yeah.
And this was honestly would have been number 1 if my number 1 movie wasn't actually.
My number 2, it was more of a select, limited release. It's a hit show on True TV, Impractical Jokers, the movie. Who would have thought that when this film came out, because it was in select theaters, that you would actually appreciate it because it was one of the last
Nobody
fun.
appreciates it.
The
I've seen
fan
this
base-
show is so dumb.
No, the fan base loved it.
All 5 people.
No. The Impractical Jokers, the movie, they blended their television show into stuff that they did for the movie, then they did a storytelling version of the film too. Certain parts were so funny that you just couldn't stop laughing, and I believe this was coming out more towards the end of February, so it's another one of those movies that you wanted to go strong. I was hoping it was go strong because the theaters were sold out, everything, it was giving the laughs, but then the pandemic hit and they put it straight to HBO Max and Blu-ray and all of that.
You say that like it's a problem. My number 1 was just straight to DVD.
Well, no, my number 1 actually is too.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
yours
crazy-
is a streaming one, though. I mean,
Well, this one's supposed to be... This one, and we'll get to that in a second. Let me finish with... Because we're going to do some honorable mentions.
I actually had just the one. I already mentioned it.
Oh, okay. But it brought the laughs. It brought the heavy laughs. They were able to do more than they were able to do on a TV show. Great laughs. Sucked that it didn't get more recognition. It was almost on that Jackass movie level. Like Jackass started small, and it grew bigger and bigger. I don't see them doing that because the way their show is set up, they can't get too big because then the joke's over basically. But for now, The Impractical Jokers was a great movie to share the laughs with.
If you say so. My number one movie is a movie that I called it would be the movie of the year I did the review.
And
you can go back and check. I think it was the podcast.
Yeah, it was the podcast one.
And I said it during the podcast, so I would not be surprised if this is my number one. And it stayed true to form. Becky. Becky was such a good time, and it came out of nowhere because I didn't think it would be this good. And you had
the cast too.
You had Kevin James as the villain, and it's like, God, how bad is this going to be with Kevin James? And he is molded. He's just the greatest villain of 2020.
And let me ask you this: when you're talking about Kevin James as a villain, you're not talking about like the Adam Sandler version of Kevin James as a villain.
No, he is just cold-blooded all the way. He harkens back to I don't want to compare him to this person. He just has pieces from him, like Hans Gruber from Die Hard. Just cold-blooded. He never really screams. He's very talks normal. Like, he's going to tell you what he's going to do. He's going to look at you and say it in such a calm demeanor, and then shoot you in the leg. And it's just a wonderful time. And Lulu Wilson is the little girl who's killing these people in such brutal ways. And people compared it to Home Alone. Like, no, this is not Home Alone.
I remember you used that comparison too.
This is wonderful. Like, she's beating people with boards and nails, and she's stabbing people with this.
And they were actually getting hurt.
Of colored pencils, and it's just.
It wasn't like they were getting hit in the head with a paint can.
No,
and getting
back. These people were getting stabbed in the face with rollers, and it's just brutally. She kills them brutally slow. Because her methods aren't fatal on their own, so you just oh, this was wonderful. Such a wonderful time. Check out the movie. Watch Becky's number one. Out of all of these movies, if you watch one, it's gotta be Becky.
So my number one is actually a film that was. Becky was one, when the pandemic hit, a lot of films were, okay, we're just going to get them out there to get them out there. Greyhound, I believe, was one of those ones that were already set to be in a streaming service.
I think Becky is a Redbox film.
Okay.
They were never going to theater.
But Greyhound was, from the beginning, set to go on streaming service. And it obviously went on to one at Apple Plus TV. So Greyhound is a war movie. I'm not big into war films, but this one, a friend recommended it, said, hey, I want you to review this, see what you think. I'm like, hey, I'll take a request, definitely from a friend of mine, because he's a movie nerd too. So I get on and I watch it, and I'm blown away. The film stars Tom Hanks, and I think this was released in July. It's about, basically, I believe it's in World War II, a group of sailors and stuff like that, the Greyhound, that's the name of the ship, their job is to make sure the merchants, the supply ships, get across these lines safely without the Germans blowing them to pieces, or at least trying to get many ships going. It's only about 90 minutes long, and soon as it starts, the character development is sacrificed, but you get over that because, boom, right off the bat, they're in war. They're blowing stuff up. Ships, the Nazis are taunting them. They're getting hit. Tom Cruise plays a good captain who's maneuvering his ships through these missiles and everything. And he stays through the 48 hours of darkness for something that they had to do. It wasn't completely dark. It's just they were in that area where there was no communication. They had to get these ships across the safe line. It was 48 hours. So by the end of it, he finally, he completes the mission. You hear the honorable people on all the other ships, thank you, thank you. It was a very touching at the end. So it had that good amount of motion and action, and the graphics were good. for my very first big time streaming movie to review, I really loved it. And I don't this movie wouldn't have blown, if it was in straight theaters, it wouldn't have blown the numbers away, but it would have been still, $300-400 million film. So
Boring war films.
no, this one was.
No one's getting stabbed in the face with colored pencils. It doesn't.
Now we have some honorable mentions. Well, at least I
Holly
do.
has honorable mentions. You don't get a silver medal for runner-up.
Yeah, no, these ones.
No participation awards.
Okay, here's the truth. The reason why these two are not on the list was because I don't like to do a top 7. It's either top 5 or top 10. The rest don't make sense. These would have been like 6 and 7 type of deal. The one was Netflix. It just came out. It's called The Devil All the Time. I was going to write a review on it, but the time has passed. So I'm just going to talk about it real quick.
Time's not passed. I've done reviews on 1980 movies.
That is true. This will be one of my blogs coming up sometime. It stars Tom Holland. He's basically a boy that.
Runner-ups don't get talked about.
Okay.
Next one. There you go.
The next one is. Go ahead.
Tremors Shrieker Island. That's
Yeah.
an interesting one to have a runner-up on. We were talking was this like a deviously good movie?
Yeah.
Because 5 and 6 were bad, but 7 was good. Like it kind of snuck in there because you weren't expecting it to be good.
I watched all of those films, and
I've ranked all those films.
you did.
That's a hard rank.
5 and 6, pretty much like you just turned them off. And I wasn't gonna review. No, you reviewed.
I reviewed Shrieker Island.
I stayed away from, but I still watched it because I told you to watch it because I'm like, whoa, it's a little bit better than I thought it would.
Well,
be.
I was always gonna watch it. I just forgot.
I'm the keeper of records here, so. But yeah, when I seen the title, I'm like, okay, that looks stupid. When I seen the poster, that looks very stupid. When it had John Hader in it,
Yeah, John Hader was like a little warning sign.
I thought it was very stupid. Then I watched it, I'm like,
It worked.
it worked. James
Hader was so much better than Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah. So it all worked. But those were some of the better films we pushed through.
If you're wondering why Tenet wasn't on this list, it's because neither of us watched it.
Yeah.
And we are recording this before Wonder Woman comes out. So we have not watched it yet.
Yeah. But Christmas is coming up Friday, so...
Have a happy holidays.
Yeah, and see how Wonder Woman does. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.